They really thought we wouldn't notice. Like Disney could drop a supernatural water spout, a new power couple, and a finale full of coded messages and we'd all just move on. Nope, not happening. Because if you watched Zombies for Dawn of the Vampires and didn't immediately start screaming, that's the setup for Zombies 5. Then I don't even know what movie you were watching. Let's be honest. The way this franchise is evolving, we're not just watching a story anymore. We're watching a handover, a shift, a soft reboot without actually saying it's a reboot. And the biggest question now are Victor and Nova really the new Zed and Addison? Or is Disney playing a much bigger game? Let's get one thing straight, Zombies 4 was never just a movie, it was a blueprint. A blueprint for where this franchise is headed, with a very specific message. The torch has officially been passed. Zed and Addison, the couple that carried 3 entire films, were suddenly background noise, still there, still beloved, but no longer driving the narrative. And guess who was? Victor and Nova, 2 completely new characters who came out of nowhere and somehow, in just 90 minutes, stole the entire show. Tell me that wasn't intentional. Let's talk about them for a second. Victor, with his wind powers, his wild curiosity, and that constant energy that felt way too big for his world. And Nova, living under the crushing weight of daylight, responsibility, and a father who literally controls her environment. These 2 had every reason to stay in their corners, follow the rules, and play it safe. But did they? Of course not. They found each other instead. And let's be real, hear that chemistry. That instant spark. It was like watching Zed and Addison all over again. Back in Seabrook High, back when everything was new and complicated and magical, only this time, it felt even more rebellious, even more loaded, even more necessary. Because Zombies 4 didn't just give us a new couple. It gave us a conflict. Sunny side versus shady side. Daylight versus darkness. Tradition versus change. It wasn't just supernatural, it was political, social, emotional. And then Disney had the audacity to act like this was just another movie in the franchise. Please, now here's where it gets wild. According to Deadline, Milo Manheim literally said this could be the start of a new trilogy. Not a spin-off, not a side story, a whole new era. His words, not mine. And Meg Donnelly didn't just agree, she practically confirmed that Zed and Addison are done being the leads. In her own words, they deserve their own movie. Not they deserve a moment. Not they deserve a subplot. A movie. Let that sink in. Zed and Addison fans, I get it. This feels weird. It's like being told your favorite band is going on tour, but they're only playing one song and giving the rest of the stage to their opening act. But this is where it's heading. And honestly, it kind of has to. Because Zombies 4 was already pushing Zed and Addison into the shadows. They weren't driving the story, they were reacting to it. Victor and Nova, meanwhile, were breaking rules, building bridges, and literally lighting up the screen with their own mythology. They weren't just side characters. They were the story. Still not convinced this was a handoff. Let's talk music. That soundtrack wasn't built around Zed and Addison. It revolved around Victor and Nova. 9 original songs. 2 reprises, a brand new anthem that fans are already calling the new someday. Freya Sky, who plays Nova, said Show the World was about hope, freedom, and breaking the cycle. Malachi Barton, aka Victor, called it the closer. And when the actors start using words like closer, beginning, and torch, you better believe the story's already shifting, whether the studio admits it or not. And then just when we thought it was over, came that scene. The ending, a frickin' supernatural water spout swirling out of the ocean, just sitting there, glowing, rumbling, giving off huge next villain energy. Fans are already connecting it to mermaids, sea creatures, and a whole new set of powers. And Disney, quiet, not a word, not a tease. Not even a post-credits wink, which is suspicious. Because let's be real, Disney only goes quiet when they're planning something big. And guess what? If you line up the timeline, Zombies 1 in 2018, Zombies 2 in 2020, Zombies 3 in 2022, and Zombies 4 in 2024, you'll see the pattern. That means Zombies 5. We're staring down a 2026 release. It fits perfectly. The only thing left is an official announcement. And based on how hard Dawn of the Vampires has been trending on Disney+, the numbers are on their side. Early reports say it doubled stream counts from Zombies 3 in the first 2 weeks alone. That's not just success, that's franchise fuel. But here's the real question. What happens if Disney pulls the trigger and Zed and Addison don't return? Yeah, let that hang for a second. Because in section 2, we're diving into what it really means to continue this franchise without the faces that made it famous and why Disney might already be preparing for that exact reality. Okay? So let's not pretend this isn't a big deal. A zombies movie without Zed and Addison. That's not just a shift, it's a seismic shakeup. For 5 years, they've been the heartbeat of the franchise. From the second Zed broke through those Seabrook barriers to that last emotional moment in Zombies 4. They were the reason. Fans kept coming back. So now that Disney's playing this mysterious, low-key game about Zombies 5, people are starting to freak out and, rightfully so. Because the truth is, there's a real chance we've seen the last of them as main characters. Yeah, it hurts. And here's the kicker, Milo and Meg know it too. They've both been dropping little hints. Doing that classic Disney dance of we love our characters, but we're excited about the future. You know the one. In recent interviews, Meg said she could see herself taking on a producer role. Instead of returning as Addison producer, as in behind the scenes, as in not on camera, and Milo. He called Zombies for a moment of reflection. His words weren't about where the story's going, they were about where it's been. Read between the lines. And it's loud and clear. They're ready to move on. Maybe not emotionally, but professionally. Absolutely. And honestly, can you blame them? Both actors are in their 20s now. They've grown up with the franchise. They've done the press tours, the musical numbers, the 3-film arc, the New Zealand shoots. There comes a point where even the most iconic characters have to step aside or risk getting stale. Zed and Addison already had their happily ever after. Their story was told, so what's left? Just more of the same. Or worse. A repeat of what we've already seen. That's where Victor and Nova come in. Because here's the honest truth. They're not replacements. They're the evolution. Victor isn't just some edgy vampire with good hair. He's driven, he questions everything he's been told. He refuses to hate just because he was raised that way. That's powerful. That's what this franchise needs right now. And Nova? She's not your average sunshine girl. She's dealing with pressure, guilt, fear of rebellion, and the weight of her father's legacy all while trying to find her voice. Sound familiar? Yeah? Because it's Addison 2.0, but more complex, more conflicted, and honestly, more relatable to today's audience. We're not just watching a cute couple anymore. We're watching 2 kids stuck between systems trying to rewrite the rules. And that's what gives Zombies 5 the chance to go deeper, darker, bolder, and let's talk about that water spout again. That whole ending sequence wasn't just a tease, it was a setup. For what? For the next chapter. The fans have already started connecting dots. The theories are wild, and I'm here for it. Some say the ocean storm is linked to Nova's solar power, like a warning that light and water are about to clash. Others think Victor's wind abilities are the only thing that can calm it. Either way, it screams next-level conflict. This isn't Seabrook anymore. This isn't even Sunnyside versus Shadyside. This is the world opening up, and it's about time. Now. Imagine that world. Without Zed and Addison. Let that settle. Imagine a premiere where they're not in the posters, not in the trailer, not singing the main theme, just names in the credits maybe. Are we ready for that? Because, let's be real, some fans aren't. Social media has already exploded. One comment with 30K likes literally said, "No Zed and Addison equals no watch." Harsh maybe, but understandable. For a lot of people, Zombies isn't Zombies without them. And Disney knows that, which is why they're being so quiet, so careful, so strategic. They're watching. They're calculating. Waiting to see if fans will embrace Victor and Nova the way they did Zed and Addison. And honestly, they just might. Because Victor and Nova's story isn't just Good Eats Electric. There's tension, drama, humor, real stakes. They're the spark that could carry the next trilogy. And if Disney plays this right, they could actually pull off something that most franchises fail at, a successful transition to new leads. But that depends on one thing: whether or not Victor and Nova can survive the weight of the legacy they're stepping into. And in Section 3, we're going deep into that pressure. The fan comparisons, the expectations, the whispers that they're not real leads. Can Victor and Nova carry Zombies 5 without collapsing under the shadow of Zed and Addison? Stick around. It's about to get heavy. This is where it gets messy. Because let's not pretend that Victor and Nova aren't already being judged. Every single post, every scene, every lyric, fans are dissecting them under a microscope. Are they good enough? Are they too similar? Are they trying to be Zed and Addison? Or are they something totally new? The comparisons are everywhere, and they're brutal. Some fans are on board, calling them fresh, real, and the future of the franchise. But others, not so kind. And if you've spent 5 minutes on TikTok or YouTube lately, you already know people aren't just skeptical. They're straight up divided. And let's be honest, that's not fair. Victor and Nova didn't ask to be the next Zed and Addison. They were written that way. From the moment they locked eyes on screen, it was clear what Disney was doing. The emotional music, the meaningful glances, the opposite Zoe-track dynamic. It was textbook Zed Addison setup, but with a twist. This wasn't a cheerleader and a zombie in a pastel suburban school. This was a vampire and a solar-powered warrior stuck between warring towns, buried under layers of history, pain, and lies. This wasn't cute. It was dangerous. And maybe that's the point. Because the old Seabrook story was about acceptance, integration, and school spirit. But Zombies 5, this is about identity, trauma, and revolution. Victor isn't just trying to fit in, he's trying to survive centuries of blood feuds. Nova isn't just trying to be heard, she's trying to break free from a literal regime of light and obedience. These aren't cheer competitions. These are generational scars. And the chemistry between them, it's not just cute, it's urgent. Urgency is what makes this so powerful and so risky. Because Disney is now asking two brand new characters to carry the emotional weight of a franchise that fans have loved for nearly a decade. That's not just pressure, that's impossible expectations. Imagine trying to walk into a party where everyone's still talking about the old hosts, still singing their songs, still quoting their speeches, and you're supposed to somehow impress them? That's what Victor and Nova are walking into. And let's not ignore how strategic this is. Disney didn't make Victor and Nova sidekicks. They didn't even ease them in slowly. They shoved them front and center in Zombies 4 gave them the conflict, the music, the emotional arc. That's not just a gamble. That's a full-blown handover. But here's the wild part. It kind of worked because whether you love them or hate them, you felt something. You saw Victor's frustration, his hunger to break free of the vampire rules. You saw Nova's fear, the way she looked around at her sun-drenched world and questioned everything. And when they met in the middle, sparks, not manufactured, not forced, just real, raw, imperfect connection. That's what made Zed and Addison iconic. And now, Victor and Nova are carving their own version of it. But here's where it gets complicated. The moment Zombies 5 officially drops SIF, it drops they'll be judged even harder. No more safety net. No more Zed and Addison to anchor the plot. No more nostalgia to distract from the fact that these two are now the face of the franchise. And if that announcement comes with no Zed and Addison in the cast, oh, you already know the backlash will be loud. People are gonna rage. Comments like they're not the same or bring back the OGs are gonna flood every platform. That's just how fandoms work. But here's the truth. They don't want to hear Victor and Nova don't have to be the same. They're not here to replace anyone. They're here to evolve the story. And honestly, if you give them space, if you stop measuring every moment against Zed and Addison's greatest hits, you might see what this really is. The next chapter, not a reboot, not a downgrade, just a natural, painful, necessary shift. Remember how people reacted to Zombies 2 when werewolves were introduced? Everyone said it was too much, too weird, too soon. And now look, Willa and Wyatt are fan favorites. That's the cycle. First they hate, then they warm up, then they claim them as icons. Victor and Nova, they're in stage 1. But they have everything it takes to make it to stage 3. They just need the screen time, the conflict, the stakes. And let's be real, Zombies 5 is shaping up to be all of that and more. Because this time, it's not about finding acceptance, it's about fighting for freedom. So, will fans accept that? Or will they reject the very idea of a future without the couple that started it all? That's what we're diving into in Section 4, because the fandom split is already happening. And if Disney makes the wrong move, this franchise could implode. Before Zombies 5 even gets off the ground, let's stop pretending this is just about a movie. It's not. It's about loyalty, legacy, identity. Disney may think they're simply lining up the next chapter in a fun little musical fantasy series. But for the fans, this is emotional warfare. Because Zombies 5 isn't just the continuation of a story, it's a test. A test of whether the franchise can survive a generational shift, whether audiences will allow new voices to lead, or whether the whole thing falls apart under the weight of nostalgia. And right now, that test is already dividing people. You've seen the comment sections, you've heard the debates. One side is saying, let Victor and Nova rise. We need fresh blood. The other is screaming, no Zed, no zombies. And both sides are loud, passionate, hurt, because this isn't just a casting decision. It feels like a betrayal to some and a breakthrough to others. And the craziest part, Disney hasn't even made an announcement yet. Think about that. We're watching a fandom go to war over a movie that doesn't officially exist. That's how much this series matters to people. That's how deep this story has cut. But here's what no one's saying out loud. This was always going to happen. From the second, Zed and Addison got their perfect ending in Zombies 4. The countdown began. Disney gave them closure, a beautiful, emotional, full-circle moment. And in doing that, they opened the door wide, open for a new generation. Victor and Nova weren't a backup plan. They weren't a side quest. They were the next big thing by design. And the more you rewatch Dawn of the Vampires, the more obvious it gets. The tension, the structure, the music, it's all setting them up to carry the torch. But passing the torch isn't easy. And accepting that handoff, even harder, because when you've grown up with a couple like Zed and Addison, when their story is the one that made you feel seen, understood, inspired, it's hard to let go. It feels wrong, empty, risky. And that's exactly what makes Zombies 5 so powerful. If Disney dares to go all in with Victor and Nova, they're not just continuing a series. They're asking fans to evolve, to believe that there's more to this world than the first love story we fell for, that new characters can matter just as much, that it's okay to say goodbye and still hold on to everything that came before. But let's not get too idealistic here, because the moment Disney announces Zombies 5 and, let's be honest, it's coming, they're walking into a storm. Every trailer, every cast list, every sneak peek will be judged ruthlessly. If Zed and Addison are missing, expect backlash. If they're barely involved, expect outrage. If they're there but sidelined, people will still complain. That's just how deeply this franchise has embedded itself into people's hearts. It's no longer just about what's next. It's about what feels right. And Disney, they're stuck between honoring the past and betting on the future. But here's the thing. Zombies has always been about change. It started with zombies trying to be accepted, then werewolves breaking through fear, then aliens showing us what it means to belong. And now, it's about legacy, power, choosing your own path. No matter what came before. Victor and Nova don't have to erase Zed and Addison. They don't even have to outshine them. All they need to do is earn their place. And honestly, they're already halfway there. But that next half, that takes courage from the writers, the studio, the actors, and from us. Not because Zombies 5 could be everything. A new trilogy, a deeper conflict, a love story with actual danger. But it could also be the one that breaks the spell. If Disney plays it safe, tries to please everyone, tries to force both generations to share the spotlight, it'll feel fake. But if they commit, they go all in on the new leads, if they trust the fans to grow with the story, then we might just witness something rare. A franchise that grows up with us. So the real question isn't whether Victor and Nova can lead. It's whether we're ready to let them. Because the war isn't about characters. Anymore, it's about what we want this franchise to mean. A sweet memory. Or a story that still dares to say something new. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you want Zed and Addison back front and center? Or are you ready to see Victor and Nova take over? And if you're still undecided, just remember one thing. The water spout is still out there. And it's only getting stronger. Thank you.